Hi everyone and welcome to the weekly update with me, Richard Perry, market analyst at Handset Markets. Each week I take you through the key events I believe will be driving your investments in the coming days. Now, moving into this week, we've got the Fed this week and the BOJ, two massive central bank announcements that could certainly drive markets towards the back end of this week. Not only that, we've got a whole load of growth data to come out, so the markets are really sort of settling in. But a little bit of caution at the start of the week to come ahead of these key risk events throughout the back end of this week. So certainly the questions being, what will the Fed do, what will the BOJ do? I think the Fed will basically sit on its hands. It's sort of not really that close to hiking interest rates. Now we've had this Brexit decision. Certainly Brexit was a big issue last time out. I think that's going to continue to be the case over the weekend. We saw apparently Brexit was a big issue at the G20 meeting. So I think the Fed will continue to remain sort of cautious in its approach to hiking interest rates. As you can see on the chart here, we've still got, even in the December meeting, less than 50% probability of a rate hike this year. So what about the BOJ? Well, the BOJ are likely to do some sort of easing measures, but exactly what that entails, likely to be sort of some sort of expansion of ETF purchases, possibly REITs, and also possibly even an extension of the negative interest rate policy that it has, moving from negative 10 to negative 20 basis points. So that could certainly have an impact. Is that enough to really start to continue to weaken the yen? The yen has had significant weakness in front of this meeting. Will it continue to weaken on the back of it? It remains to be seen. I think it's in a bit of a crossroads period. So what about these Forex markets this week? Well, we've got the euro, which continues to fall away, just sliding slightly, nothing too precipitous in terms of selling pressure, but certainly there is a definite dollar strengthening that we've got, and that is certainly reflective of the euro below 110. So that support at 109.09 is looks like it could well be tested this week, and possibly even 108 figure if we have any sort of hawkish sentiment from the Fed in terms of its statement this week. Cable still sort of holding up. It had a sharp selling pressure coming through on Friday with the back of those PMIs. What do those PMIs now do to the Bank of England Monetary Policy Committee? Well, we start to see dovish rhetoric coming out from them and start to prepare the markets for what is likely to be an easing program from the Bank of England in the coming months. And what about the BOJ? Well, as I said, possibly could disappoint the markets. Markets sort of factored in a wide-ranging easing measures. Will we see that from the BOJ? It's unlikely to do helicopter money. Karud has already sort of started to rule that out. But will the Bank of Japan be able to satiate the markets, which seem to be sort of looking at quite a significant easing package? Dollar yen has had that big rally. Will that rally roll over? It started to consolidate in front of the BOJ. Could well sell off on the back of a disappointment on dollar yen. So what about the equity markets? Well, we've seen strong rallies starting to come a little bit of resistance. I mean, yes, you have had sort of pushes out through to further gains, but I just see that they've come a long way in a short space of time. I think a little bit of profit taking wouldn't go amiss. I think a near-term correction would be probably fairly healthy, certainly for the S&P and also the FTSE. S&P 500 continues to sort of see all-time highs. A little pullback, 1-2% pullback wouldn't necessarily be the worst thing in the world, I think, for the S&P 500, back towards that breakout level of 2134. FTSE 100, similar sort of story. Initial support 66.12, but 62.47 would be probably a very strong medium to longer term buying opportunity on the FTSE, with the regard that we're going to have probably quantitative easing coming up from the Bank of England, which should help to drive markets higher. In terms of commodities, we've got the commodity markets which have been under pressure with that stronger dollar. They've been pulling lower. The gold price has been correcting back. The oil price is falling away. I think for the gold price, I think the fundamentals are still in place for a strong gold, with looser monetary policy and continuation of these negative interest rate in terms of the yields on the bond markets. So I think that sets us up for strong gains on the gold price still to come, and I think a near-term correction again would be a buying opportunity. But I think with the oil price, You're starting to see question marks over the demand side again with this Brexit decision, and also interesting that we've now seen 4 weeks in a row of the Baker Hughes rig count rising. So are we starting to see a bit of settling of that supply constraint there? So what about the rest of this week? Well, as I said, we've got a lot of growth data. We've got the Q2, first look at Q2 GDP for the UK, Eurozone and US all through this week. We've got the 2 key central bank decisions. That is going to really dominate proceedings, and a little bit of consumer confidence for the US, a little bit of housing data, a little bit of inflation as well on Friday with Japan, and also the flash Eurozone data. Nothing too significantly expected there, but certainly I think the growth data could have an impact, and also the key central bank decisions. So with that in mind, I wish you good luck in your trading, and I'll speak to you next time. Thank you.